All the latest fight action, direct from Wales in the United Kingdom, 100% live, it's Big Fight Weekly, with your hosts Chris Hume and Stu Palmer.
I look into the mirror and all I see is failure staring back at me. I hope the light gets clearer, but when you got that voice inside your head saying,
welcome to Big Fight Weekly with my special guest and special guest co-host, my mentor, Mr. Don Mcguire. How are you, son?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, man. Had an awesome night at Primus and coming off of a tremendous fight weekend. Couldn't be in better shape, man. I had a blast this weekend. You know, especially topping it off with Primus.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Primus just a little bit. Let's squeak into Primus because obviously I know a bit about them. I saw them enough times on the TV when I was a kid growing up, and Clay Paul was an idol of mine as a drummer, learning with the blues and the jazz side, and very, very talented bassist. So I learned a lot with learning his sort of style with being a drummer. Very underrated bassist, and I said this to you earlier. Well, I say earlier on, very early hours of this morning from me. Yeah, how was it? Enjoy yourself because you're there with your son. So did he enjoy himself?
Oh yeah, I do everything with my son, but I got to tell you what, man, you couldn't be more spot on about Les. And it's like, I mean, the guy sit there, watch the guy play this bass with one hand and make it seem flawless and seemingly easy was just incredible. And then you saw a bit of the video, the graphics, the lighting. I mean, they just put on a class act. I mean, they didn't play race car driver, but hey, I'm cool with that, But for $65 a person, it wasn't too bad. It was a tremendous night. Like I said, I was a little burnt out because I was down in Bentonville, Arkansas, with my promotion this weekend. But couldn't have had a better few days. How about yourself?
Well, as you know me, I went back to work today. I had from a week off. I was ill as well over the weekend, which was not so great. But yeah, I prior to that, I was all right. I was just chilling out and recharging the batteries and just doing nothing really, which is sometimes is quite good to do nothing than anything really. Especially in my household with 5 of us and 3 dogs, and I got a zoo with multiple animals that live with me. So it was nice. It's just the end part that ruined it by getting the sickness bug at the end of my week off, which is a bit of a kicker. But it can't be helped, and it's just one of them. Let's go back to your weekend. So you did a seminar with Joe Daddy Stevenson. Before we break into any of the fights that happened over this weekend, let break us into how that went and anything that we need to know that
Well, it's great because we have a promotion down in Northwest Arkansas that we do at the 4 Point Sheridan, and this is my second event being involved with this promotion, and so I felt like it was prevalent to bring in Joe Daddy Stevenson, who's a brother of mine, and I'm a guy. I'm old, man. If I can't kill 2 birds with 1 stone, I'm not even gonna throw the stone. So, I talked Joe into coming in. At first he was going to come, and then he said he couldn't. And then I told him, I said, man, I already booked you a seminar. So he called Smiling Sam Alvey up and said, hey, can you corner my fights in Omaha? And he said, I got to go do a seminar with Don. And I tell you what, I've known Joe for a long time, but I've never seen him teach on the mats before. That's one thing. I've never had the opportunity of shooting him at a school or at Henderson's. But to see him in there with these practitioners, man, dude, I would have stayed home from the gym that day because he really puts it on him. He is 110% go or go home when he's on the mats, and I was impressed. I was really impressed, and his teaching ability is second to none. He has a way of teaching you without humiliating you, without making you feel like you're not understanding what he's trying to tell you. And very, very few, because I've been around almost every professor in the world, and to see my brother do that, I mean, it was tremendous because not very many people will correlate and teach people like he does. It was just it was flawless. Couldn't have been a better weekend. And like I said, to top it off was with Primus. Man, it was a blessing because my son's my best friend. I take him everywhere with me.
No, it's great to have, and it's great to have. I'd love to do it with my lad, but he's very fixated on playing on computer games, and he's only 15, so there's time.
Well, we had some great fights though this weekend, bro. I mean,
Yes.
Bellator kind of shocked me this weekend, homie.
Well, you know what? We'll fall straight into that. Why you brought it up? We'll go straight to Corey versus Nemkov, or Corey Anderson versus Nemkov. Obviously, I put the banner at the bottom because I suppose that is the statement of the fight, really. Me and you had a little back and forth when we spoke about it briefly yesterday on the phone. We both were the same conclusion that Corey Anderson still should have come away with the title, even though the headbutt occurred. I said about 50 seconds before the end of round 3. I know rules are rules, but if the guy's clearly dominating and we're 2 rounds off, the fight completely finishing, so shouldn't we be looking into that really and thinking, well,
see, here's the thing. I'm a little privy to some information that most people don't know. I was watching the fight with Joe Daddy Stevenson, and we both agree, and he got a call from Big John McCarthy and Mike Beltran, and we were all talking about this situation. And if it goes into the third, it's supposed to go to the scorecards. So Corey Anderson, in my opinion, he got robbed, bro. Because you got Big John McCarthy, you got Mike Beltran, you got Joe Daddy Stevenson. We're all looking at each other going, Corey got robbed. I mean, you're talking about almost 100 years worth of experience in this sport that feels that Corey should have got the nod. But, Bellator is going to do what they got to do to keep that tournament and that bracket open and keep it going. Unfortunately, they didn't see fit to give it to Corey, which I thought they did. But you know what? They'll get 2 birds with 1 stone. I mean, they're going to have a rematch. They're going to have a rematch with Pitbull and McKee. We'll go there in a second. So really, I hate to put it this way because I like Bellator, but it's really going to be the night of rematches in the future.
Yeah, in a nutshell, I agree with what you said, and I thought Corey was robbed as well. He clearly was winning 3 rounds. As there was only 4 and 5 left to go. I know Nemkov threw up a few tricky arm bars, and he did try and catch him with a triangle choke. When opportunities were there for him to try and catch out Corey Anderson, but Corey Anderson was dominating the fight completely. And accidental headbutts, they do happen, but that wasn't the worst one we've seen before. There's been much worse ones where the guy's busted completely open. I think that Nemkov had a tiny bit of cut, I think just above his eyebrow, didn't he? Like a little circle cut, which I don't deem that as a fight that should have been like a no contest. It should have gone to Corey Anderson, and then surely you would have given Nemkov the rematch after that. I know there will rematch anyway, but that's really where it should have gone with it.
Most definitely. The thing that makes me mad is like they play off on that. Okay, you and I have been in the sport. I've been in the sport half my life. They take the cut and they clean it all up, and then they stretch it out, and then they take a picture afterwards, and they make it look like it's this, Grand Canyon sized cut, when in reality it's not. I mean, you got Dean Lassiter, you've got everybody in Bellator that are some of the greatest cut team in the world. I would put my whole heart and confidence behind Dean Lassiter and anybody, Craig Nasello, all of them, Sid Gee, everybody that's involved with Bellator. They're tremendous. They're going to stop that cut. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I think they should have let the fight continue if you really want to ask me.
No, I agree with you. I don't think the headbutt was all that bad because I think Corey was caught coming on the side and it just sort of, obviously it's going to hurt and it's going to rattle your brain a bit, but do you feel that was Nemkov thinking, I can get away with this one because I'm losing the fight?
Yeah, I really do, because if you think about another fight on the card, and we'll get to that when we get to it, there was a fighter that was, just headbutting, and it was just like, come on, bro. It's like you think we don't see that, but it's more common in this sport than you think. Fighters try to get away with something because they're losing, but I don't know. Corey dominated that fight on the ground. He dominated his standing up. I mean, but you know what? This way I like it better, honestly, because you know what? Corey's going to go back He's going to have that chip on his shoulder. When him and Nemkov come back, it's going to be one hell of a fight, bro.
Could be different. Could be different. The outcome could be different, and Nemkov
Oh,
could
yeah.
finish Corey, and then he's gonna be pretty pissed off with how that. And if it was to go that way, because Nemkov is a very talented light heavyweight, and I mean, it might have been just one of those nights he was having against Corey, but on the a second night between these two, it could be completely different outcome.
Oh, like I always say, man, you never know. I don't care what records you have. I don't care if you're undefeated. And, it doesn't matter until the cage door closes. It's whoever's the hungriest is going to win the fight that night. I don't give a crap what your record is. It's going to go to the hungrier fighter. I've seen it time and time again. And, you think like, go back to the days of John Jones. You think, somebody like that, he's dominated so long, he's just going to go in and roll over him. Look at Mike Tyson in boxing. Well, even the greatest of Mike Tysons meet Buster Douglas. They meet James Lights Out Tony. They meet, James Quick Tilla. So it's like, when you think about it, you're only as good as that night. So, I mean.
He'll get better. He will get better. I'm sure that Nemkov will look back and think, right, okay, I was caught. And Corey's a very good wrestler, and he was very good in UFC at utilizing his grappling side. I always thought, though, he was a bit chinny in the UFC. And, he did get knocked out by Jan Blachowicz, didn't he? I know, obviously, he beat Jan Blachowicz before that. I remember Jimmy Manuel from the UK knocking out Corey Anderson. I was, like I said to you off camera, I was a bit confused by his statement, thinking he's the best lightweight in MMA currently. It baffles me because, yes, he's got some wins over current UFC champion and potentially current Bellator light heavyweight champion. If you think about it, if we minus the headbutt in the fight, the good things to have on your resume. But he never fought the John Joneses, did he, or the Daniel Cormiers, or he never fought the big guns, Corey Anderson. I feel like he got so far in UFC terms now, but never made it over the hill. Bellator is probably just a bit more easier in that sense for him.
Well, Bellator, you're talking about two totally different promotions too. UFC, UFC's ran like a corporation. Bellator's more ran like family. So I mean, even though I worked for the UFC for many, many years and I'm still under contract, I gotta admit, I loved working for Bellator a whole hell of a lot more because they treat you so much like family. I mean, it's so relevant, the way they treat people. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, one of the best promotions I've ever worked for.
Well, I can't really comment. You've been there and you've lived it. You've seen from both sides of the story between UFC, Bellator, bare knuckle yourself. So maybe ONE FC's next on the agenda for you, Don, to get us a taste of that as well. Why, they're coming over a lot now, aren't they, in the States? Like,
matter of fact, 6 months ago they were trying very, very hard to buy my syndicated side and try to grab a hold of my video platform show, and wasn't into it. And then they tried to go around the hill to get my show, and it didn't work out that way either. But the thing about it is, with my show, it's called The Fighter's Voice. I can't sell my show because it doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the fighters. I'm not going to sell out the fighters. So I'm glad you brought that up, because this weekend I met with a gentleman who sets up FM radio stations, and they're going to create a sport talk radio show, and they would like me to be a part of that and keep my show separate because they originally had wanted my show. So, going to be doing 3 different shows again, I guess. It's part of life and how we roll, but you know what? You got to love it. You got to do it. And that's how we got in contact, man. I watched your show. I thought it was great. And here we are.
Yeah, well, it was Liam, the middleman between us, wasn't it? Really? But he's a good guy, and it's who isn't it? That you meet people that you wouldn't imagine you would meet. So I gotta, even though I don't think he meant to sort of introduce us the way it happened, but I still got to tip my hat to him and thank him, even though he probably thinking I didn't do anything. I just come on your show.
Hey, man, you got a mate for life. If he came on your show, bro, you got a friend for life. That's one thing. A lot of people think that in this sport, because they see what they see in the octagon or in the ring or on the mat, or they see the Conor McGregors or the other aspects of the sport, Colby Covington. They think that's how everybody is. And, they got to be that way for the most part, some of them. Not all of them have to be that is drastic. But when you get behind the scenes, man, because this sport doesn't pay. So when you get behind the scenes, it's a true brotherhood. It's a sisterhood that really keeps everything conjoined. And a lot of people don't really get to see that part of it. You really have to be part of the promotion, be able to be behind the scenes. But, there are fighters that genuinely hate each other, like Chuck and Tito. But
yeah,
I mean,
that's quite evident, that one, isn't it?
Yeah, but for the most part, how can you go to war with somebody and not respect them afterwards? And that's the greatest thing. How can you go to war with somebody and not respect them? And 99.9% of these men and women that go to war with each other respect each other after their wars. So I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Even if they go into to fight hating each other, 9 times out of 10 they walk away better friends or even brother and sister. So it's pretty cool.
Well, unless you like your Kobe, sorry, as you just said, he embraced it, Usman after their second fight, and then as soon as he got a mic in front of him backstage, he was, back to use his old tricks of giving him shit. But Kobe will be Kobe, won't he? Might have a different story of Hazmat Shemaev can sort himself out after his last fight, and maybe put them together, and maybe won't be as talkative as much after that one.
I'd like to see his jaw get broken again, especially after I threw him off my show. I interviewed Colby from when he was an amateur all the way up until his Damian Amaya fight. And, after he called the people Brazil heathens, it was like, no, bro, you can't come on my show. And then he had his mom beg me and said, hey, Don, let him talk about the Fabrizio Verdum incident. And I'm like, well, yeah. And I'm like, Noel, he called the police on Fabrizio, so yeah, he called the police on him so he could get everything filed. And it was like, you really wanted me to let him on the show and talk about how he called the police on Fabrizio Verdum. So I did, and then the day of the show, Colby was like, he knew it was at 9 p.m. Central Time. He's calling me like 9, 10, 8, in the morning, telling me I should be grateful to get 15 minutes of Colby's time. And the story, 15 minutes into the interview, I threw him off my show. I don't got to tolerate that crap, bro.
No, you don't have to. He can go off and grumble somewhere else. Then if he's going to be an arsehole, you don't need arseholes. Like, at the end of the day, you're where you are because of what you've done.
Yeah,
he should be an honor to come on your show. But he's a dickhead, isn't he? And dickheads forever be egotistical and think the best of the best. Obviously, he didn't see that much when he got clobbered by Masvidal in Miami after a fucking club. Really, got a chip tooth for it as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Right.
Man.
Besides this, now, because we keep going off topic now, maybe keep going.
I know. On. Yeah.
We'll go to Patricio Pitbull against your man AJ McKee.
Yeah. That's my nephew, man. You know what? So here's the thing, man. There's gonna be people mad at me after this statement. I really don't care. Yes, my nephew won the tournament, won the $1 million. This was the rematch clause in the contract. Do I think AJ won the fight? No. I gave 1, 2, and 3 to Pitbull. I gave 4 to McKee. 5 could have went either way, but what I saw was I saw McKee, who looked like a fighter who didn't have a camp. He looked like his mind was somewhere else. He looked sloppy. He wasn't on point like he generally. I mean, come on, he's a 19-0 fighter. I mean, you don't just come in and take things for granted, especially against a man as devastating as Pitbull, a man that has held the belt for forever.
Yeah.
And yeah, I get it. AJ won the belt from him in the Grand Prix, won $1 million. Pitbull just walked away with the belt in his fight purse after this. Yes, there's going to be a trilogy, but he could have created history. He took himself out of history this last Saturday or Friday, whatever it may be. I can't remember what day Bellator was, but
Saturday, yeah.
He could have went into the history books as being one of the greatest fighters in Bellator history. and he took the fight for granted. He took Pitbull for granted, and he got schooled.
Well, yeah, I said this to you on the phone. It reminded me a lot of when Chuck Liddell fought Randy Couture for the very first time. And he was very laboured, wasn't he? And it wasn't the same Iceman who was in his prime and he was knocking people out, but he was utilising all skill sets, which I liked about AJ McKee. He used a lot of his skill sets. He was very fast. He's fluid. But in this fight, he was very it was like he was carrying a backpack on him. Yeah. And everything was just really slow, lethargic. But in his own mind, I don't think he saw that, though. I think in his own mind, he was like, yeah, I think he was like quick like lightning. But it wasn't. It was, like you say, it was slow. And it was just like, there was no bite or sort of hunger from him. Like, I've already beaten this guy. I've beaten this guy already. Sort of
yeah, it was subpar. But, and I love my brother Antonio McKee, AJ's father. But, when AJ sat on the stool in the fourth round, he said, "You've won every round. Let's just get." And I'm thinking, how can you tell him he's won every round? But perception is 9/10 of the thing. But the thing of it is what the crowd sees is different than what the photographer sees. What the photographer sees is what's different than what the ref sees. And so we all make our own assumptions. We all make our perceptive thoughts. But in reality, unless you're there and you're in the cage like the ref is, you really, even the ref doesn't have a true perceptive view. I mean, so it's like to sit there and watch it on TV and judge it. I can say this, because I was just out there last April with AJ, right before he went in and fought for his birthday, and his birthday's this month. I was supposed to be out there for this fight. That's my family. If I was biased, then I would say that AJ won. But I can't sit on a show and honestly say that AJ won that fight. You're right. He looked like he was gassed in the second round. He had a massive sweat going at the end of round one. Going into round two, he looked horrible. He wasn't crisp. He wasn't sharp. He wasn't on point. The 3 takedowns that he tried in the first 3-4 rounds were horrible. There was just nothing to him. It was just like he took Pitbull totally for granted. And I got to admit, me and Joe Daddy and everybody were absolutely amazed that he just didn't even look like he wanted to be there.
Yeah, I got the impression of in the same sort of way that I feel like I've beaten this guy. Why am I here? And the problem is, as well, I thought, Don, is the talks of wanting to face Max Holloway and Volkanovski, wanting to become a UFC champion. All this talk before, he fought Pitbull. I'm thinking, why you don't need to talk about UFC or Max Holloway or Volkanovski? You've got a man in front of you who's been and done it. Yes, you've beaten him, but you've got to be focusing on this guy. Maybe all that has clouded his judgment, and too many people are in his ear, maybe telling him the wrong thing because he just didn't look interested. I agree. His face at the end, when the scorecards, which you can see at the bottom, all come out, it annoyed me a bit because he was shocked. I'm like, how can you be shocked? You must know deep down that you weren't good enough on the night.
Yeah. And another thing that shocked me was there was a tabulated scorecard circulating around before they even called the winner of the fight. So, I mean, it's like you can't take precedence to everything that you see, but I mean, it doesn't take a person that's watched this sport their whole life to look at that fight and go, McKee didn't win. And that's hard for me to say. I don't know about a lot of your listeners. They know about my relationship. But I've known AJ since he was a baby, being bathed in a crock pot in the front of a garage front. So, I mean, this isn't easy for me to say that my nephew got his ass whooped, got his rear end whooped and didn't win the fight. He just didn't do enough. He didn't look like he wanted to be there and didn't look like he was hungry enough to get it.
Maybe this will light a fire up his arse and he can, obviously they're going to rematch. It's inevitable, isn't it, really?
There's already a trilogy in the books.
So then he can watch this back and maybe he give himself a kick up the arse thinking, shit, yeah, I was too laboured. I looked very disinterested. I thought I could coast it because if you really label in the fight and how watching it on the telly, it did look like he was trying to coast.
Yeah.
He went off with a fancy kick at the beginning to the sternum of Pitbull, didn't he? A bit fancy, and then it just didn't work. It just didn't work.
No.
And my eyes, as if you're calling out Max Holloway, Volkanovski, and you're having a performance like that, they'd be like, no, you're not going to get here and fight us. If you've got the attitude and that's just how you're gonna turn up. Because if he turns up like that against the likes of Volkanovski, Don, he gets flattened by Volkanovski.
Oh, well, bro, even if he won this fight against Pitbull, he's not on the level of Volkanovski. It's just
not yet. Volkanovski's just getting better.
Oh, Volkanovski just keeps amazing me and amazing me and amazing me. I mean, it's just like, just when you think the guy couldn't get any better. But I mean, there's just maybe another 2 years before, McKee could face somebody like Volkanovski. But after this performance this last weekend, now maybe 2-3 years behind, because he's got a lot of catching up to do, bro, because he looked horrible this weekend.
But he can go back, fix all his problems, fight again against Pitbull, and all this can go away in a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
After one fight changes all the outlook at the previous, and then everyone's back on his coattails then and thinking, right, AJ McKee's won the title back flawlessly, made himself look good, and then everyone can talk. Then he can talk about what he wants to talk about then. And he can get his £1 million flipping check out here and he can dance around all he wants with it. But in the meantime, he needs to get back to the drawing board. He needs to rewatch that fight and people need to be honest with him. I can't stand if anyone would be there with him and telling him, yeah, you're winning that round. I want people to be like, no, not good enough. And slow it down for him. Give him some real takes. And I'm sure he's that kind of guy that would understand and be like, okay, this is what we got to do next.
Yeah. I agree with you, man. I agree with you, but I don't know, man. The next fight just kind of the Pico fight in Edwards. I don't know. I'm not a huge Pico fan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not because I've known Pico from day one. I think he's a great wrestler. He came out of Team Body Shop originally with Coach Antonio McKee, another Coach Antonio McKee fighter.
Yeah.
Let's start him go to his head. He had a great start to his career, but then got super, big-headed and changed camps and thought he was the best in the world and ended up over at the garage with Sam Calavita and them and Juan Archuleta and Cub Swanson and.
Mm-hmm.
For me, he's been a disappointment in the sport. Even though he came out with the win, it was just like I still have yet to see enough from Pico to make me feel that he deserves the accolades that he gets from the sport.
I'm looking at his record now. There isn't many names on there, really, is there?
No, it's crap.
It's not like. There's not a lot of names. If he is this next coming guy, then surely he should have been put against someone to test his ceiling. And the guys I'm looking at on his record here, Don, don't seem like guys that are testing how far his ceiling is. These seem like guys that just are happy to be there to fight a guy that was a former freestyle wrestler.
Oh, they're feeding him cans. I mean, they're building this record, but if you can't win against feeder fights, then you really don't have much of a career. And I don't mean to knock Pico. No, I think he's a great kid, but if you can't beat somebody who can't fight their way out of a paper bag, how much of a career are you going to have in this industry? He should have never left Antonio McKee. He had one of the greatest coaches in Antonio McKee. See, that's the problem in the sport. Some of these guys, they get a couple wins and they think that they're already better than the person that got them there. And, ultimately you end up ruining your own career. Look at where Archuleta's at. There's a lot behind of it. And I'm a lot behind the scenes of this, but, Pico's going to have to get 6, 7, 8 more fights in before I can even give an acknowledgement. Yeah, did he do tremendous Saturday night? Yeah, but still, yet another nobody.
Well, hold on. Let's see. He's Ada Edwards. He fought. I can't even. His record's awful. And this was at catchweight as well.
Yeah.
You see, I agree with you with Pico. He's an interesting guy that, and he's got that freestyle background, and that to me, that's a leg up over a lot of opposition you're fighting. When you've got that heavy influence freestyle wrestling, you've got much more in front of you than a lot of guys that come into the sport that have to learn multiple disciplines. You've got that, the freestyle, which is, strong. You've seen multiple wrestlers and still now in multiple divisions that take control of a division because of the freestyle wrestling. So why isn't he using that to his advantage? I don't. But also, like, as you say, before we go off on a tangent then, he needs to fight someone with a name. He needs to fight someone with a name. In my opinion, if we're going to see where he goes and we see how far his ceiling is, it's got to have a guy with a name or a name that's been there and done it. For me, if Pico's going to, move up the rankings.
Yeah, because you could fight Can 7 days a week and you're never going to improve, So it's like, like I said, Pico came out in the sport with a bang and kind of just fizzled out. You change camps, you change your mindset, and I think it just threw him off his path. Can he find the path? That's up to the matchmakers of Bellator. They're the ones that are matchmaking these fights. Pico doesn't pick his fights. I mean, he can, refuse a fight, but at the same time, they're going to match him up with somebody that's going to bring it. I mean, you look at, I don't want to jump back to AJ too much, but I mean, you think about AJ, he fought Corrales, he fought Caldwell, he fought everybody, and he rightfully fought the world champion in Pitbull, but Pico has just been honestly a letdown for me time after time after time. When I hear Pico's on a card, I'm not even interested in watching it. And I hate saying that because I love every fighter, but I'm not going to watch somebody that doesn't deserve to be there.
Maybe, like I say, maybe they need to give him a name. Maybe he needs to get on the microphone now and call somebody out.
That would probably help, that and be able to back up what you're saying,
Yeah. Or maybe a new promotion for Pico needs to be given to him, and maybe he can forge a career in. I don't know. I wouldn't say UFC because I don't think he'd be warranted in UFC, but maybe it's not World Series of Fighting anymore, but maybe something like that.
Well, I honestly think if he would have lost this fight, he was going to be cut from Bellator. I mean, if you really want to ask my opinion, I think he was going to get cut if he didn't win. I mean, you can only lose so many times, and let's face it, he's been less than exhilarating in the octagon, and it's like your business, your promotion is based on how many people you put in the seats, how many people buy your pay-per-views. If you're put on a guy that nobody wants to watch, what's the sense of even having him with a promotion?
Yeah, there is that though, isn't there? You got to sell those tickets in a way, haven't you? So if people aren't tuning in for you, then there isn't much hope. Unless you can turn it around. Maybe he needs to get a dickhead persona. Maybe go look at Kofi Covington and think, right, I'm going to take bits away from what he says and I'll stop being an arsehole. I'll start Twitter wars with other fighters. Why not? Get some people looking at you. But also, as you say, he's very much win one, lose one, isn't he? There's not much of a consistency with Pico, which maybe he's, as you say, maybe he's in the wrong camp. Maybe he's got the wrong people again in his ear.
He was doing great. He didn't lose a fight with McKee. But when he was under Coach Antonio McKee, never lost a fight. Leaves Antonio McKee. That's why I say the grass always isn't greener on the other side, bro. Sometimes you need to water your own yard and quit complaining about it and put that work in. And that's what Pico needed to do at the body shop. But he decided to move to the garage with Sam Calavita. And I think it was one of the biggest mistakes of his career.
Well, he's learning from it now. But then they say he's not lost a fight for a while, but it's just a level of opponents that don't impress me really. It's not.
Well, yeah, it takes 3 of them to add to one good opponent.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be a jerk, bro, but
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, and a lot of these, you know, I mean, looking at it, you know, there's a lot of finishes and there's, you know, a few submissions here and there, but these guys are just they don't come out at me and say, "Wow, he was tested there. He was really tested against Aiden Lee, or Justin Gonzalez, or John DeJesus, or Chris Hatley." You know, these guys, and I'm not want to knock them because you know that they are a professional fighter, and I'm just a guy that talks about fighting on on the screen. You know, so I don't want to knock any of those guys. But if you're Pico and you're the one that's making these claims of you're one of the best or you're the next guy, then you've got to be fighting guys with bigger names. That's just in my opinion.
oh, you're absolutely right. But the next fight, man, I tell you what, the next fight it kind of had me, kind of stunned. I don't know what your thoughts are, in the Miller fight, but wow, bro, that was kind of a shocker for me.
Tyson Miller and Khralon Gracie.
Yeah.
Very. I can't really. I don't know how to sort of put into words. Really, it was an interesting but weird one for a doctor stoppage. I can't say I see many of those sort of doctor stoppages in the time I've watched MMA as a whole, but I suppose you always get the weird one that pops up every now and again.
Oh yeah, but we missed the fight, but we'll finish this up because the reason I did that on purpose. So actually, but I think that fight. I'm like you. It kind of was. It was different for me. It was. I just say the freaking least, man. It was just different. We could just put that one to bed if you want to, and get back to the guy you had on last week and talk about what our buddy did.
No, but I like that curveball because I watched when I was watching it and then I completely forgot. So you just sort of rung it back in my head. But yeah, all a weird stoppage. But again, suppose we'll probably see more of these weird things going on, as we go along. Right, yeah, let's get to Arman, who we had on the show last week. Linton the Swarm Vassell. He defeated Tim Johnson by a TKO of ground strikes. Dead impressed with Linton Don. He got caught. He looked like he had a bit of a hairy moment, but fought for adversity. Got the back of Tim Johnson and just rained down those Thor-like hammers.
Oh, yeah. See, that's the thing, man. You do not want to let Linton get you on the ground. I don't care who you are. I mean, you're talking about a heavyweight that's as fast as a light heavyweight, if not faster. I mean, this guy's just incredible. Linton has been in my life for a long time, and you know the story. We talked about it on your show when he was on your show. But the thing of it is I helped talk him, going from light heavyweight to heavyweight because it just he had came off 3 lessons in a row, and it was just like, bro, you got to change something here, because light heavyweight, you're struggling on the cut. You want to eat. It's killing you mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, and bro, you got to do something. I said, you need to go to heavyweight, and he agreed, man. And it's nice because you've seen him on your show. He was.
Oh, he looked good. He looked good.
He didn't want me to take my shirt off though, but I mean, I didn't want to have to embarrass him and show him what a real chest looks like. I'm joking, but no, he looked absolutely phenomenal. He looked shredded. I gotta admit though, I was a little shocked that he got caught the way he did, but
it was in the clinch, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing of it is I also know the durability of Linton, and you really got to catch him good for him not to be able to come back. If you give him that split second just to come back, then he's going to make you pay for it, and that's exactly what happened in this fight.
And Tim Johnson's no slouch, Don. He's been in there with some, big bangers.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
I know he got knocked out by Fedor in his last fight, and it's a dwindling Fedor. It's not the Fedor we all know and love, but he's still a
Well,
name.
no. Let me stop you right there. I don't
Okay.
care if Fedor's 20 years older than he is right now. That man will still knock out 20-year-olds. Fedor, that's the thing about I love him, man. And he's a true epitome of people that judge books by their covers because they look at him, they see this overweight, bald-headed man that doesn't look like he actually belongs even in the sport to begin with. I've shot a lot of his career. I've dealt
I've
with him
seen
a
pictures.
lot.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, man, that dude, you know how they say George Foreman used to be able to knock people out from 3 inches away. Fedor's the same way, bro. I mean, it just takes one punch. And I don't care if you're 22 years old or 30 years old. You go against that old man. See, hey, you young guys don't know about this old man strength. I'll tell you a little story that not
Go
too
on.
many people go, and I don't want to get off track, but
No, it's fine.
Dan the Beast Severn lied
Legend.
to the UFC and said he was 30 years old when he was actually 40. And he beat some of the greatest fighters ever to fight in this sport after his 40th birthday. So let me tell you, this old man strength is a whole lot different than what people think. And you can't judge a book by its cover because I tell you what, I've seen Fedor get taken out like that, but you know what? It's by accident or he slipped, but no excuses for him. But I've also seen Fedor go in there and fight some of the greatest wars I've seen in my 37-year career in this industry. I mean, Fedor, like I said, man, you never know who the fight is going to go to when the cage door closes. But my money's going to be on Fedor 9 times out of 10, if not 10 out of 10, bro.
The Emperor. Listen, I love Pride. Fell in love with Pride. I got a lovely Pride T-shirt as well somewhere, but probably doesn't fit me anymore. But besides that,
What does it say? Gay Pride or White Pride? No, I'm joking.
Oh, is it because I'm wearing pink, isn't it? No, you're catching me. No, I listen. I love Fedor. You've completely thrown me off, you fucker. Listen, it wasn't just his striking, Don. Though his sambo and willingness to go on the ground with Nogueira and Pride when nobody wanted to go on in the grappling area with Nogueira, and he did that, and he beat him in his half guard with strikes. You tell me in the history of Pride, nobody ever wanted to go down on the ground with Nogueira. At that point, when Nogueira was in his prime, before the UFC took over and brought him in.
Oh, no, not big nog or little nog. I
mean, they were dangerous guys. But, don't forget, Fedor's been in there with Crow Cop. Like a Crow Cop it was back in the day in Pride. Monster. Yeah. He's fought the who's who. He's fought the who's who. And I've got a lot of respect for him.
Yeah, and then in the later years, he's lost to Mitrione. So I'm like, come on, man. It's like, but the thing of it is, Russian fighters, see, a lot of people don't understand. Russian fighters are a lot different than British fighters, American fighters. They're different than Brazilian fighters. See, for one, it's a government-ran aspect. Over there, fighting is big and it's government controlled. But the thing of it is those guys lose, they got to go back and answer to it. They've got people they've got to answer to. It's not like it is here. You lose, and everybody says, "Hey, man, keep your chin up." No, I mean, look when Khabib jumped over the cage, after his Conor fight, and then he was afraid to go home. It took Putin to call Khabib's dad so he can come home because he was afraid he was going to get his hiney smacked. Yeah, I mean, it's you got to look at the different mindsets. A lot of people say Russian fighters are all voided out. The thing of it is the sport. It's regulated, but then it's not regulated. So I mean, but when you look at Bellator and the UFC, they're probably two of the most regulated aspects in the world. I know a lot of people will disagree with me with John Jones because they say he gets favoritism, and
he does get a bit of favoritism.
Well, I mean, yeah, he does, bro. I mean, and that's one of the reasons I don't treat his training camps anymore or have anything to do with them because somebody that doesn't want to get their life fixed, doesn't want to move forward. Why should I stay stagnant with that type of individual?
No, I don't blame you. We spoke about this on the phone, and well, I know I've got a topic for John Jones in a minute anyway, but I'll touch on this briefly. We can get back into it after it. A guy that could have been probably one of the best, if not the best, in the world, and threw it all away for whatever reasons, or whatever demons he's fighting in his head. It's just a shame, Don. I saw that guy come through the UFC rankings per se before there were rankings, but and you got to feel like the fights against Stephan Bonner when he was doing suplexes, spinning back elbows. People never see this shit. People never saw that. They didn't see that flashy side. I know Anderson Silva was there, but Anderson Silva wasn't doing things like that. And he was this young lad, and you couldn't not but fall in awe of this 6 foot guy. Probably the biggest arms in MMA at 84 point something, for a guy at light heavyweight. But he went through everybody and he didn't turn anyone down. And it's just a shame that all the shit he's done, from the drugs, the steroids, the whole situation he's got in Vegas with the woman, I'm not going to go into because it's not for me to say. But it pains me to think, what have you done? You've wasted all that time doing all this, battling all that, when you could have been where you needed to be. And people would be thinking, yeah, this guy is the best in the generation, for a long time. But they're not, are they? They're not looking at him like that. They're looking at a guy that wasted all that potential. And yes, okay, we'll just fucking jump into it. Fuck it. And yes, we know he's going to heavyweight, and it does look like he's taking a lot of time to get there, which I think makes sense, to get your body prepared for heavyweight. This is something that Dane has come out with currently. Well, I think in the last couple of days, Don. It does make sense. I thought this would be the way they would go.
I'm not a big fan of this fight.
You're not?
Nah, man.
Who would you put him up against then? Other than Ngannou, because Ngannou's injured, so you can't place him with him yet. So where a heavyweight at least?
Honestly, if you want my opinion, I would. I don't know, man. I would shelf John Jones for a minute. I'm just after this last stout of him getting in trouble, and the multiple times before that, you're talking about a man that's been given break after break after break after break. You go back to one of the last times before this last time that he got in trouble. Andrea KGB Lee got in trouble at the same time for taking a diuretic. She gets a year suspension. John Jones gets caught speeding, drunk driving with cocaine, and is fighting 2 weeks later. Where's the fairness in the sport? Where's the fairness between fighters? So it goes to show you that the UFC has their pet projects, and I get it, and I understand that you need to build a promotion around certain fighters, but you're also talking about a man at 23 years old that blamed the UFC for making him a world champion, said the UFC is the one that created him, and to being a drug addict that ruined his life, and they should be, held accountable for his success. I mean, this is a man that's blamed every problem in his career on everybody but himself. I used to shoot his training camps. I used to love the guy. I think I thought he was going to be one of the greatest fighters in history, and he can still possibly do that. But I think Stipe runs right through him. I really do. I just really do, because first of all, Stipe's got a great stand-up. So does John Jones. But look at John Jones's last fight. He looked totally out of shape. He didn't look like he even deserved to be there. I mean, you're looking at a man that looked like the Pillsbury Doughboy, and he's talking about he's reinvigorating and reinventing himself. I mean, I don't know. I see Stipe taking him out in one or two rounds. Stipe doesn't play, bro.
No, but I know, and Stipe's put much more weight on after the fight against Ngannou. I know that was apparent that that's what he was intending to do, because I think he came in a bit underweight. Everyone's going to come in underweight against Ngannou. I get that, because Ngannou's like an action hero. But I read into that Stipe was taking time off, obviously, because he's just been knocked out. But he was going to put some weight on, which I think that's good for him. I don't know what John Jones we're going to get. Because as you say about Dominic Reyes, which is his last fight, I thought he lost to Dominic Reyes personally. I thought Anthony Smith could have been an arsehole and took the knee and took the title off him. Could have. Yeah. But Anthony Smith's a really nice guy, so I can see why he didn't do it. But there are little things that are starting to crack with John Jones with his fighting sense.
Yeah, and don't get it twisted. Anthony Smith is originally out of Factory X with Mark Montoya, but he's really actually about 3.5, 4 hours just northwest of me with James Krause and Zach Cummings at Glory. He spends quite a bit of time there because they all cross-train between Factory X and Glory. But, it's just, I don't know, man. I think John Jones, I think we, this may be one of his last few fights that we see him. I think he's getting to the point that, maybe the demons have been too much in his career, but I don't think he can handle a fight like Stipe. I just really don't, man. And, Dewey Cooper the other day did a presser and talked about Ngannou and him going to boxing. So, is that even a feasible option for him to fight Ngannou in the UFC? Because, I mean, you think about it, the Paul brothers offered him $10 million, 15% of the pay-per-view purse. You're going to walk out with about $16-17 million. That's more in one fight than the UFC's paid you your entire career.
Yeah.
I mean, so really, where does he win? I mean, if I was Ngannou, I would take the boxing match, get the $17 million and retire.
What's the sense? Fury now, though? Was this another fight that they're matching up with?
I'm not sure. They just announced that he was going to be getting a contract. They didn't say who it was going to be against, but I knew that they had offered for him to come over to the Paul brothers and fight on one of those shows. And I mean, you'd be a fool not to. I mean, I don't agree.
They make a lot of money. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, even Baby Slice just fought in celebrity boxing, which I don't agree with. I mean, come on, Flavor Flav was the ref. I mean, but it's pathetic what they're doing to, a genre of the sport that I love. But at the same time, it's the people you got to be mad at. 80% of the population are millennials. So what is the industry going to do? They're going to give you what you want because you're the one paying for it. Yeah. So in reality, people don't even understand when the UFC is sold to a WWE conglomerate. And then when Dana White sold his last 8% of his shares, it went to another entertainment aspect. So when you look at it, theoretically, the UFC is the same as the WWE. It's an entertainment organization. It's not even a fighting organization anymore.
That makes me sick. Don't say things like that.
It's fact.
I know. You've told me before. I know. I'm not interested in Jake Paul. I don't give a shit. I know he's called out Michael Bisping recently, which, let's be honest, Michael Bisping has got one eye. He's just had knee surgeries. I don't want to see him fight Jake Paul. I don't want to see Michael Bisping fight again. I think Michael Bisping needs to carry on doing what he's doing because he's doing fantastically well what he's doing. Jake Paul needs to fight a boxer, Don, and not an MMA fighter. And if you know what, are you talking on the talks of Ngannou? If Jake Paul wants to fight an MMA fighter and Ngannou wants to fight in boxing, here you go, Jake Paul. Go and have a punch up with Ngannou. Yeah. We'll see how that goes for you.
It won't go too well.
You know what? And people keep saying about Jake Paul, Anderson Silva's boxing and looking really good at doing what he's doing in boxing. Okay, Tito wasn't a one that you really want to highlight, but it is what it is. But he beat Chavez Jr., a former champion, and he did it in typical Anderson Silva way. There's a guy right there. Call Anderson Silva out. Stop fighting guys that are too small for you. Call the likes of Conor McGregor out. when, Jake Paul's a cruiserweight and Conor McGregor's at 155 at a push at 170, still can't reach the cruiserweight without burning himself out. It's fucking ridiculous. I hate it. It pisses me off.
Well, there's another guy I really don't care too much for, but I think he's going to create history in the UFC, and that's Henry Cejudo. If they give him the opportunity to fight in another weight class, I mean, he's going to be a five-time, different division champion. It's like, I mean, come on, bro. The little guy's pretty bad, He's a package full of dynamite, but I just want to touch back on that Linton fight.
Yes,
for a minute.
Completely went away from it.
Oh yeah, but this happens all the time with me, bro. I do this all the time, but it's like Linton. I mean, the future's bright for him, bro. It really is. It's just totally bright for him because, he proved to himself that he can get caught and he can recover and he can continue and he can win. And that's something that I think sat in the back of his head and played with the back of his mind, for a little bit here, and because as we talk, he did just come off those 3 lessons at light heavyweight. Mm-hmm. And, ever since he's went to heavyweight, he's had success, so, I mean, I already knew in my heart that he was going to win this fight because I believe in my family and I know what he's capable of. But did I think he was going to get caught? No, but to see him recover, come back and throw down the hammer fist. I mean, and you're right, man. It's like Thor. I mean, he's dropping sledgehammers, bro. That I don't think people really understand how big Linton himself really is. I mean, physically. I mean, that you can see him on TV, but you just can't get the just for it. This guy's just an absolute ape, man. He's just like the Hulk. I mean, he's huge.
And he's in the right camp in Sanford MMA with all the guys that are there to learn from, especially being a UK guy. Everyone's always, if you look for history, people have always said, like, the UK fighters need to go to America, don't they? They need to go to America. Not such now, it's different now. But, Linton Vassell's in Sanford MMA where there's abundance of people that he can brain and cherry pick everything from. He's got great coaches there. Absolutely great to have met him last week on the show. I did tell him that you'd beat Tim Johnson as well, by the way.
Yeah, you did.
I want him to get that rematch with Ryan Bader. I think he can beat Ryan Bader. If you watched their first fight, you could just tell it was just a cut, and he just got wrestle reversed. That was it. I don't think Ryan Bader was even saw that Linton was going to come to wrestle with him. But I think he can beat Ryan Bader. I am not a massive Ryan Bader fan, and I'm sorry, Ryan, but I think he's completely overrated. I wasn't a big fan of him in UFC, and I'm not a big fan of him in Bellator. I respect that he's won 2 titles, but you haven't fought, prime opposition. You beat Fedor, but you never fought the prime Fedor because you would never have got away with that knockout. I think that Linton can beat him, and Linton can be the second UK British heavy.
He's going to be the heavy. He will be the heavyweight champion. I put money on that. I could have gave you a bad time and said, well, if Ryan Bader owned his own school and it was a jiu-jitsu school, what would you walk in and call him?
To be open the door, prick.
No, it would be Master Bader. No.
I listen. I don't want to knock him, but I just don't like. I just don't think he's. I think he's very overrated. I don't.
He's very, very overrated. He's like the Pinto of cars, dude. I don't know if you know what a Pinto or a Vega is.
I know what a Pinto is. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like the Pinto of the sport, bro. It's like he's just one of them fighters that just won't go away. He did great. He had a tremendous run, but he's still hanging on, so I can't knock him. He's still in the top 10. So it's like, what do you do? I mean, but at a point, see, this is what people don't understand too. At a point now, we're at a pivotal point in this sport where the people that brought the masses are all going to be gone. They're starting to dissipate. We've already watched the first generation go with Mark Coleman, Dan Severn, Paul Verlins, Todd Medina, you know, Rich Franklin and Matt Hughes and all them. And now that then we came into the second generation, you know, the second decade of fighters. And now we're almost into the third decade. What's the UFC going to do? Because they really haven't added too many fighters to the stable. What's Bellator going to do? Because they really are relying on the older fighters to carry their promotion. And I think this is something that a lot of people really haven't looked at. You know, just talk about our talks. We're talking about fighters that have been fighting for Bellator for the last 10, 12 years. You know, we're not talking about up and comers. The only one that we talked about on this card that was an up and comer was AJ, and he's truly not even an up and comer himself. I mean, you know, he's a seasoned veteran, and I mean, other than that, the only up and comer on this card was Pico. I mean,
yeah.
And it's like, if that's what the sport is going to offer Picos, they better hurry up and change things, because, you know, and start looking for new talent, because this is something that I've talked about on my show. And I know we got sidetracked for a minute, but this is something that is very relative and needs to be addressed now, because it's happening in boxing, it's happening in MMA, and it's happening in other aspects of the sport. What are they going to do when the talent is gone? You watched them drain Invicta to fill up the 145 and 125 in the UFC for the women, but it killed the Invicta promotion. So what's going to happen when there's no more fighters? And that's what we're getting to. I mean, there's always going to be a stable amount of fighters, but quality fighters that deserve to be in the top promotions.
No, I agree.
It's getting to be less and less.
Well, I'll give you a good inkling where all these fighters are coming, Don. Just look across the fucking pond.
Yeah.
There's a great British flag coming back to America to wage war, because these guys are just getting better. They're getting better, and they are getting harder to beat, but they're not getting out wrestled anymore. You know, the only one thing that UK fighters had is they were getting out wrestled. They're not getting out wrestled anymore.
No, I mean, actually, the UK fighters they're a force. I mean, they're proven time and time. Well, look at the UFC when it was just over there. I mean, it was the UK's night. I mean, people can't just bypass that. They can't keep bypassing what the British fighters and what the Welsh fighters and Irish fighters are bringing to this sport. I mean, a lot of people always paid precedence to the Russian fighters and Yugoslavian and you know, Armenian fighters, but the UK stepped up and has proven to the world, not only in the UFC, not only in jiu-jitsu, but now in BKB and other bare knuckle promotions, they're proving to be the best in the world. So I think in the next couple of years here, we're probably going to see multiple UK, you know, champions from the UK. Yeah, I really think it's going to happen.
It's been frustrating over the years that I know, and you know, Michael Bisping and Lee Mcguire are the only two ever to do it. You know, okay, Conor McGregor. Okay, yeah, I forget about Conor McGregor.
We all forget about him.
But you know, they're the only three guys that have done it. But we've had talent. It's never happened. Dan Hardy fought GSP, and Dan Hardy never had a grappling bone at that point because GSP was just the best. Leon Edwards has got Usman, you know, and I'd imagine that's July, International Fight Week. Do I think he beats Usman? No, I don't. But I'd love him to. I want to see a UK guy. I want to see a guy that wins title, and I'm not asked who it is. You know, if it's Paddy, if it's Jack Shaw or Mason Jones or Tom Aspinall, because you know I feel like he's got a very good chance himself up there, heavyweight. But just someone to win the title, not just win it, Don. Defend it.
Oh, Paddy's gonna go all the way, bro.
Maybe if he doesn't get earmarked by Logan Paul for a fight. I don't know if you've read that or saw that on the internet.
No, I haven't, but you know, there's just something about Paddy and you know what? For some reason, man, I see something in Meatball Molly. I just Meatball Molly McCann just kind of, I don't know. I know a lot of people don't like her, but I see beyond a lot of that stuff, and I see into fighters, but there's a lot of hidden talent there. If people go back and watch her last fight,
Mhm.
there's a lot of cognitive processes that go through that. Even when she ducked down
She knew
and
where
through
to
this.
place it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, she had to train that because that she knew to look and she knew it was open and she took it. But I mean, in the heat of the moment, unless you train that, you're not going to know to look. And she already knew it was there. She knew it was going to happen.
It was like
And
a computer game, wasn't it? It was like a computer game, right? You know when you've got your
yeah,
combination, right? And he throws his punch, I'm throwing this, and she knew, and you could tell when she span, you knew exactly. I'm going. That's what she's going for. The only problem with Molly McCann is it's the champions that are in that division,
yeah.
Shevchenko, and I love Molly McCann. She's a follow Evertonian like me. That's not why I love her, but just still love her a bit more. But Shevchenko's a train wreck for everybody, Don. For everybody.
Yeah, but you know what? There comes a passing of the guard sooner or later, and she's been at the top for quite some time. I mean, look at Cyborg. They said she couldn't be beat.
No, Nunes, yeah.
Yeah, and Nunes couldn't be beat. And I mean, you just think about it. I mean, all the ones in the last year, they said they couldn't be beat have all been beaten. Not only with Chris Cyborg, where she not only chased out of the UFC and had to go back to Bellator, she's basically on the way out of her career. I mean, she's on the last few fights of her career because I can't see her continuing. I mean,
is there anyone to fight for her to fight at 145 in the ladies for Cyborg at Bellator, really? Because I know UFC was struggling for that as well.
Getting very, very slim. I mean, like I said, you're getting to where even the women's stockpile is being depleted. You look at you got Leslie Smith who went to Bellator, but I don't even know if she's even fighting anymore. There's a lot of people that are, from the 34 to 40 years old that have been in the sport since they were 8 or 9 years old and, turned pro at 18 and got 12, 13, 14 years of experience underneath their belt. I mean, these are people that are seasoned vets. They don't have much time left. So, I mean, they're going to have to really step up their game. Like I said, they need to pull a lot of talent from not just the UK, but the world, because, man, what I'm seeing is a bunch of repetitive cards with a bunch of repetitive fights. And you're seeing the same fighters recycled and fighting each other over and over and again. And that's the problem with the UFC heavyweight division. I mean, you got 6, 7 guys that fight each other all the time. They're going to have to do something to change it. I mean, granted, I like seeing, the flyweights and middleweights fight, but at the same time, I want to see some big boys fight too. But they just don't. I mean, Derek Lewis and all these guys, they're all getting to where.
Yeah, but you've got your Tom Aspinall, your Tai Tuivasas coming through.
Aspinall's great, but I mean, they need to add more than just a few fighters, bro. I mean, come on, look at the division in a whole. I mean, there's not that many heavyweights.
Well, if you're looking at we're looking at age wise, they're in their
they're all past their prime. Yeah.
But I suppose it's a hard division. It's hard. I think it's been better than it has been for a long time at heavyweight. I do miss the days when Cain Velasquez and the Junior Dos Santoses were there. Fabricio Verdums were there. Even though Fabricio was old as well when he came back over.
But see, I do have to sidetrack a little bit though, because you look at my brother Glover Teixeira come in and won the world light heavyweight title. So I mean, I gotta back up a little bit.
He's got a big fight coming up with Yuri Prochazka though, because Prochazka's no easy feat for Glover Teixeira when they fight in July.
Yeah.
Or
hey,
June,
let's wrap.
One of the
Let's wrap this Tyrell Fortune fight up, bro.
Yeah. Okay. So Tyrell Fortune fought Linton. Did he fight? He did fight Linton last, didn't he?
No, before, but he fought Cleveland this time, Rakeem Cleveland.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, and he finished him by punches and knee. What's your thoughts on Tyrell Fortune being an American guy, you guys are obviously collegiate wrestling, and that's what you do when you're in high school. Is he the next guy, or is he a guy that's still very green?
I don't think he's still a guy that's very green. Do I think he's the next guy? No. I haven't seen enough of him to be truly opinionated on it. Do I think he's got talent? Do I think he's got capabilities? Yeah, do I think he has what it takes to get to the next level? It's going to take a few fights to get there, and see the problem here in the States, and I've watched it, and I think it's a major problem that's becoming in the sport, is you see these fighters that get to a certain level, they start finding that greatness. We talked about it early in the show. Next thing you know, they change camps. And, I truly, if he stays at his camp, stays to the game plan, I think he can grow to be a force in the sport. I think he can grow to be a force in that division. But I've watched it too many times. Fighters get to a certain point in their career, and they always think the grass is greener on the other side. And this is a story I'd like to see play out because Fortune is different. He brings a new different aspect to the sport. So we'll just have to see if his style changes and grows, and if he grows into the sport, or if he gets phased out of the sport.
We'll see. Right, Don, because we're an hour and 10 minutes. This is gonna be the last one now because I know you're busy, and I've got to have a beer. I'm gonna go to boxing because this would be something that me and Stuart would have spoken about because this is a big fight. It's UK versus UK. It's Dillian Whyte, Tyson Fury at Wembley Stadium. Massive place, this Wembley Stadium. I'm sure you've seen it on the telly. Yeah. This Saturday. Potentially Tyson Fury's last fight because apparently he's looking to retire. Dillian Whyte, who's been knocking at the door for this title shot, he's finally got it. It's great to see Tyson Fury back in the UK and not in the States or Saudi Arabia. Just your quick thoughts on the magnitude of the fight. Who do you think obviously is walking away with the title?
This magnitude is huge. Because if Whyte can come in and beat Fury, it'll drop boxing on its knees. But do I see that happening? No. Tyson Fury, I think he's unbeatable right now. I don't think anybody can beat him. Especially coming off of the Deontay Wilder, fights, and proving to the world that, he basically showed that Wilder was a fraud. He was a one-hit wonder. To come back and to beat him in dominating style. I think right now Fury has such momentum behind him that I don't think there's anybody that, even with, because you look at the reach, but you also got to look at how orthodox and unorthodox Tyson Fury is. Even if you've been a pro for years, the chances of you facing somebody with the style of Tyson Fury is 0 to none. And now, Whyte's going to go in there and face a man that is going to be just totally awkward, totally got the reach, and a man that isn't afraid to stand there and brawl with you. So there's 3 components that he's never faced before. So it's going to be one of the biggest fights of Whyte's career.
It is, and biggest payday he's going to have in his career. I'm going with Tyson Fury as well. I like Dillian Whyte. I think that Dillian Whyte's very similar to Deontay Wilder, where it's a power puncher effectively. I think Dillian Whyte's a bit more better with his feet work and his head movement and can mix things up, where I didn't think Deontay Wilder could really mix things up. I don't think it's going to cause much of a problem for Tyson Fury because he can do what he always does and he can lay on you and zap your gas tank that way. But I'm a bit gutted to think if he does retire without facing Anthony Joshua, because that is, one of the biggest fights the UK could put on. I know Anthony Joshua's lost. I know there's Usyk there as well. Maybe Ngannou if Tyson Fury feels a bit froggy for, an MMA fight, who knows? But yes, I'm going with Tyson Fury. I think he's in a KO Dillian Whyte. I don't think this is going to go all the way. I think Tyson Fury's learned to land his punches a lot heavier than he used to, instead of just, a lot of combinations and point scoring. I think he knows where to plant his feet and really put his shoulder into the punch now. It showed against Deontay Wilder, didn't it? Yeah.
Well, he showed he could step out of the pocket and still be just as devastating as he is in the pocket. I mean, because you got to think about it. When at the end of the last fight with Deontay Wilder, Deontay threw the left and Tyson dipped and hit him with that right cross and dropped him, and ultimately ended the fight. But Fury's quite agile for such a big man, and I think he's finally learning his true capabilities and what he is, able to do in the ring. And I think what we're going to see from this training camp right now, because I've seen some video, you're going to see a lot more of a diversified, more articulated fighter. And I think the world's going to be shocked to see what Tyson Fury brings to this fight, because a lot of people want to count him out, think he's a joke, think he's a few fight wonder. But you're talking about a man that really doesn't care if he wins or loses. He has nothing to lose. You're talking about a man that gives to the community. You're talking about a man that has already lived the dream that he wanted to live. And so this is all gravy for him. And, he's not going to go out on a weak note. He's going to let the sport realize that he was probably one of the greatest, heavyweights in the sport, whether you think so or not.
Yeah, I agree. He is. It just, it just showed me I can't get all the belts back. I know he's already had them before, but it'd be nice for him to beat Usyk and take the belts and then retire with everything on his shoulder. It'd be nice, But, it might not be that way, and depends if he wants to retire immediately after, or he waits for Joshua Usyk too, and takes the winner there and then retires after that. You just don't know. The guy doesn't care, as you say. He's done what he wanted to do. He's held all the belts. He's beaten who's in front of him. He's a personality that can walk away from boxing and still do other things that many boxers can't do after they retire.
Yeah, and plus, who wants the damn WBC belt anyway? I mean, come on, man. I mean, the WBC's got more belts for everything than any other promotion or belting organization. But I'm actually intrigued for that fight. I really am. I can't wait for it to happen. I think, Europe is finally getting the opportunities, the shows that they deserve. I think things are great. They've now lifted the mask restriction on planes. They've now changed a lot of things. So all the world's opening up. So I think this summer is going to be a tremendous year fight-wise for over the pond. I think you guys are going to get a lot of cards. I think the world is realizing that in the UK, you guys are some of the greatest fans in the world. You guys will, come out by the hundreds of thousands to an event.
Oh yeah.
And that doesn't even happen here in the United States. Even Abu Dhabi and all that can pull great crowds, but they can't pull what the UK pulls. And I got to say, some of my greatest memories in my career have been in the UK. Some of the greatest opportunities I've had have come from the UK, and some of the most tremendous brothers I have ever met in this sport. I mean, like I told you, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I've never met a UK fighter with an attitude that has been arrogant towards me. They've always been cordial. You've had Linton and Liam on now, and it goes to show you, even though they're from different sides of the tracks, they're still gentle. I mean, what did Liam tell you? Linton tell you, you get 15 minutes. You ended up with getting like 30, 35 minutes. But we won't bring up the second half of that. But the thing of it is I honestly think 2022, 2023 is going to be the year for the UK. I truly do.
I hope so. I really do. I feel like there's a lot on the brink for not just in MMA but in boxing as well. There's a lot of young guys and a lot of hungry young guys that are coming through. And I hope, did you shock the world? I hope we see a lot more, British champions, Irish champions, Welsh, Scottish, you name it, just all across the board of Great Britain and Republic of Ireland, and more champions. I just need to see it, because it's like, you've watched the sport for so long and you've seen fighters get so close, but so far, and then they just disappear, and then that's it then.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Like I said, as long as we keep this celebrity boxing to a minimum, and little different aspects of the sport, but you know,
Someone's
the whole,
gonna have to kill Jake Paul, then, aren't they?
well, just the whole diversity of the sport's going to change. The whole dynamic's going to change in the next 3 to 4 years. It's going to be completely different than where it's at today. And, you know, we talked about this 4 or 5 years ago. A lot of us that have been, you know, in the 1% of the sport, we didn't even expect the sport to last this long. You know, as you can see, boxing is truly kind of on its way out, unless they do something to save it. You know, Bob Arum can't be the savior. And, you know, I think it's the YouTubers and the celebrity boxing that is truly diminishing that aspect of the sport. And then you look at MMA, like I brought up, you know, I've been around a long time. I've been around, you know, just as long as most of these world champions and some of the old timers. And there's no new talent coming. I mean, yeah, there is like Kevin Kroom and these young and upcomers, David Onama, that are great, but you're not bringing them in fast enough to replace the ones that are leaving you. Because I would say probably 30%, if not better, are 35 years and older in the UFC when you start looking at the fighters.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I think, yeah, correct, yeah.
So, I mean, they're going to have to do something to change. Bellator, the UFC, everything, they're going to have to do something to change. You're going to have to bring a lot new talent, which I like because I like to see the young and up-and-comers get an opportunity and a new promotion. I mean, you look at PFL, you look at LFA, and they've been feeding, you know, the UFC and Bellator for a long time. But the last 2 years with the pandemic has pretty much pulled a lot of people away from the sport. So it's going to be interesting to see where we go moving forward.
Right. On that note, Don, would you like to throw anything out for your show, the original Fighter's Voice with Don Mcguire? You've got shows coming up, so plug away, my friend.
Oh man, yeah. Tomorrow at well, it's kind of crazy. It'd be 9 p.m. in the UK, but 4 p.m. Central Time in the United States. I got the one and only Jeff Houston, the ring announcer for Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships, coming on. But he's not only there, you know, the ring announcer. He's Road FC. He's Mr. Live Worldwide. He's MC for 80 different promotions all across the world. Consistently one of the hardest working MCs in the industry. And then at 9 o'clock tomorrow night Central Time, but the UK will be in bed and you can catch it in the following morning.
Mostly.
I got the number 5 fighter in the world, Alex Perez, set to fight in the UFC in July. We're bringing him on early because the opportunities, you know, when you get them, you take them. And if you have a fighter that wants to come on and talk about his newly released fight, you know, I'll do that. But you know what? I'll probably have him back on either right before his fight or after his fight. But this way, get him on, make sure we get him on in case training camp goes sour. At least I get him on, you know, 6 weeks before his fight, and we'll move forward because this fight's not even till July. But check out the Fighter's Voice with Don Mcguire on Google, or you can even put in the original Fighter's Voice, since I bought every aspect of it up because I had people trying to steal my show name. But you can listen to it in both voice and video format. If you look up the Fighter's Voice with Don Mcguire, you'll find a page that probably has 20,000 stored or plus radio shows stored on there. But other than that, just give the Fighter's Voice on Don Mcguire on Facebook a follow. Other than that, man, appreciate coming on, man.
I appreciate you do me a favor by jumping on. It's Stuart's birthday today, so happy birthday, Stu, for a quick one.
Happy birthday, Stuart.
But yeah, I appreciate everything, as always, you do for me and Stuart on the show. Joe Daddy Stevenson will be my next target. But on the end here, just thank you very much for jumping on, giving me your insights, having a good conversation about Bellator and all the randomness we can throw in, which is great. See, me and you both can do a show. Now you know it. So this is Chris, Big Fight Weekly. I think we're episode 56. So next week is going to be episode 57. We'll see you next week. Thank you very much, Don.
Peace. All right. Later.